This episode of the baseline documentation of where Joshua trees live naturally as of April 2017, this episode takes us to the farthest northeast section of natural range of Joshua tree. Now, the green color you see there means that it is the shorter-leaved variety. The longer-leaved variety of Joshua tree is to the west. The yellow star marks the spot where I did a detailed survey. Notice that it's right near the boundary lines where Nevada meets Utah and Arizona. It's the triple boundary there. And here's a switch to an aerial view, topographic view, and again, the yellow lines down there signify where the three states come together. So you can see it's very, very southwest Utah. The rectangle in red outline signifies the broad area where I did the video survey. You can see that it's following a watershed that runs from the northeast to the west into the broad plain out there. St. George is east off the side of the map there. Now that white line is something I drew that's my best estimate based on what I saw going through there of where Joshua trees are in that southwesternmost section. You can see it goes as far to the north as we're approaching going up a slope there, up a divide, so it needs to be in the lower elevations, as it is the same with going into the watershed that I looked at in detail. It's only on the lower slopes, the lower elevations. Here's a closer look at that little watershed. We drove in from the northeast along one of the dirt roads, the best dirt road there is. You definitely need four-wheel drive to do that. And that yellow star you see there is the first place when driving southwesterly, the first place where I saw a Joshua tree. The rest of these yellow stars I've just marked out here to show the route that we took along that dirt road, and it pretty much follows the dry wash, which would be the drainage area for there. So even though there was no water showing, and probably rarely ever is any water showing in that much alluvial ground, that would be the place where you would have the most water down beneath the soil surface. My detailed excursion ended at Route 91, which was the old road between St. George and Las Vegas before the interstate was built. Here's an even closer topographical look at the area I explored. Again, the yellow star is where I saw the first Joshua trees, and in this map you can pretty well see the dirt road that we followed. The P in the upper right area there signifies the pass. So that's quite a bit higher elevation from where I found the first Joshua tree heading downslope along the watershed. Okay, here it is. This is the first Joshua tree that I spotted from the car. It's possible there might have been some other tiny ones further upslope, but I'm pretty sure it certainly doesn't go much farther as it's quite a grade going upslope. Now, that white area to the right is the dirt road. Now, there's a single stem Joshua tree. That's not the one that I saw. The one I saw was the one with the double stem. And that's the four-wheel drive SUV that was necessary for getting back that country road. By the way, this is all Bureau of Land Management land, and to the west is a somewhat of a preserved area called Beaver Dam Wash National Conservation Area. Now let's take a more detailed look at this first area where we parked the car. We'll begin by looking east, up the watershed, as the power line up there is a crucial marker for someone in the years ahead finding this exact spot and therefore being able to compare how this baseline vegetation survey, how it's changed over the years and decades ahead. There are some Joshua trees right where I'm standing, but on that slope that you see, there are none up there. Now panning back northward toward the dirt road, Now, I saw very few Joshua trees on the valley side beyond the car that you see there. That's a southward facing slope, and I saw only very, very few up there. But there again, there's quite a few right where I'm standing. Now we'll zoom into some little Joshua trees. Here you see two next to each other. And another pair in the foreground. That mountain in the distance is another significant landmark that's visible from the road at this section. Let's return to the view of the power line eastward and zoom in to look closely at that slope. You see lots of shrubs there, including a short shrubby species of yucca with much longer leaves than Joshua tree has. We continue swiveling northward, but still no sign of Joshua tree up there. So I'm pretty sure that where I've done the filming of these small Joshua trees, that this is the furthest extent up this watershed to the northeast. There's the power line again. This time we'll pan to the right. That is looking toward the south, and toward the south on that slope, that's a north-facing slope, and that's an important thing to remember, to compare what goes on the south-facing slope versus the north-facing slope. Let's go back and take a closer look at the north-facing slope that we just rushed past. There are small Joshua trees on that slope. Along with some larger, long-leaved yucca shrubs. Let's do one more distant shot here before we take a closer look at what's surrounding me. Look how barren that south-facing slope is on the north side of the road. But I will zoom into one area that has a small Joshua tree barely visible, right there. In hindsight, I know that skeletal fallen tree by it is significant. If it's a Joshua tree, then that indicates that there is some weather, climatic, cyclical thing going on that really prevents the tall trees from maintaining this far to the northeast and this far upslope. Here's a Joshua tree. Notice the dead matter in front of it. Is this a regrowth from the roots of an older generation? Unfortunately, I did not know then what I learned later in my trip in Utah, and that's that Joshua tree, part of the reason it survives so well is that even if the main stem dies for one reason or another, it has the capacity, and it already does long before it dies, it usually will put out some new stems growing up, sometimes quite a distance from the main stem, using the roots and the rhizomes of the roots to send up absolutely new shoots. It's a remarkable system for this plant to be able to survive, even thrive, in areas that no other trees can, not even junipers. Here's a small, newly dead Joshua tree with no obvious offspring, nor any dead elder nearby. Could this one have grown originally from a seed? And why did it die? What is it about this area that puts Joshua trees at the very edge of survivability? Those points are really firm and deadly sharp. This is the only creosote bush I've seen in this section. Creosote bush does overlap with Joshua tree throughout much of its range, but creosote bush drops out at the higher elevations when Joshua tree can still thrive up high. And on the opposite, Joshua tree drops out at lower elevations where creosote bush thrives. In fact, it takes over so much that it becomes almost a monoculture in some valleys. Halt! What is that dead tree? It's definitely not a dead Joshua tree. It's got the wrong branch form. It's got the wrong wood form. But there are 0 trees now in this area. So I wonder, what species was it? And what changed that caused all the trees to die? Was it a human cause or a natural cause? Here's a beautiful group of Joshua trees. This is the last video clip corresponding to the first place where we parked the car, the most northeasterly section, the highest spot where I saw any. Now we're going to drive a little bit further down the road, down the watershed, westward, and let's see what we find. So this is the road, just a short ways heading downward. Looking back east from the way we came, this is the first graveyard of big dead Joshua trees. Now looking back toward that first graveyard, nearby we see more Joshua tree skeletons, carcasses of big dead trees. So that's a dead Joshua tree in front, and what we're stopping for on this one, we're right on the road. You can see there were some older ones in there, but here we've got a lot of new growth. But up there, it died. So whether that's temperature or whether that's wind ultimately blowing some down, don't know. Okay, here you can see where they're really starting in terms of the old ones. I'll take a close-up of that one here because that might have been a flowering last year. It's pretty strong. Sure looks like it. That one flowered within the last few years, but right along the road here, look at all those. We are entering a Joshua tree forest right here, first time. But you can see they're right down in the lowland here. They don't go up the slope. And then as I turn this way, which would be sort of southeast facing, we really don't have much at all on this slope now. Certainly nothing high up. Well, I see a few little babies up there, but none of the big ones. All the big ones are right down there in those flats. And we just traveled a little further along the road here. You can see there's a creosote bush on the left there, but look at it. This is where they just start. It's a whole forest. This one right here, very easy to see. Tall ones just in the flats. I'll just move across here for a moment. You can see here they're really not growing on this side here. But Yeah, there's some old stalks in there. One's, yeah, they're dead. At the road. We're going to follow the ridge up here, and we think we see a silhouette of one. Yep, Joshua tree right up on the ridge. We are now at about this third star along the road. Here we come to the first sign. And a few small Joshua trees. Plus a cow. We're now entering a tight canyon where we'll see another sign. All right, this is looking back up the road. This is a climbing area. There's some people pulled off. But right in this very narrow canyon area is where suddenly we came across a batch of some standing older Joshua trees. We begin standing in the wash downstream of the canyon. Here, it's apparently not stable enough for Joshua trees to grow. But we'll see them happily growing on that rocky slope to the right, along with the first barrel cactuses that I have seen on this journey. Let's take a closer look. Look at those giant barrel cactuses. And here too. Yes, that's a beautiful Joshua tree, but notice the young ones sprouting up from its roots. I count 7. I see several previous year flower stalks on this Joshua tree, but do notice the fence. So we are in a grazing allotment on this BLM land. There's a few in here. Again, traveling a little farther down, we got some creosote bush. There's another one over here. But what I mostly stopped for is you can see all the carcasses here. These are Joshua tree carcasses. And there's some more back in the distance there. But you can see right along, we'll see what takes in there, but you can see there's, in the distance, we've actually got quite a forest. So here we've arrived at the dense Joshua tree woodland that we had seen at a distance. Note the open gravel area. This is a wash coming from that side canyon in the distance. So there is something about these desert washes that Joshua trees seem to like, so long as they are slightly out of the lowest flooding area. Aha! Look at this side road heading up that canyon. Notice that the Joshua trees are only on the west side of it, and the wash is on the west side of it too. On the right, however, all we see are carcasses of Joshua trees. So here I formed a hypothesis. At least this group of old Joshua trees was intentionally pushed over to enhance the grazing potential. And it looks like the sprouts were killed too, because I just don't see any young ones growing. I know in Texas that mesquite trees are routinely knocked over to enhance the grasses for grazing, so maybe that's what happened here too. The only other possibility is that a fire swept through here long ago and was stopped at this side road. I see some carcasses along the main wash, too. Let's take a walk up the side road for a better view of the woodland. Okay, we came from that narrow canyon back there, and we came down into the broad, sloping alluvial outwash fan. The reason I stopped here is I saw from the car that there were cages, and I wanted to learn why they were here. Somebody has an experiment going. Probably planted something within each of the cages in order to keep the rabbits and cows away. Not sure what these plants are. Finally, this plant has an orange flower on it. That, along with the leaf structure, is diagnostic of globe mallow. This is also a good spot to scan the horizon for Joshua trees. And also a final look at the study area. And here's that experiment area again. I just want to document there's, free growing on its own here. A Joshua baby. This is the final video in the Joshua tree area. Here we are looking back up the road whence we came. I'll pause occasionally in order to get a good slow look at the vast Joshua tree area out to the west. Quite a few cholla cactus are mixed in with the Joshua tree and with other shrubs, including that cholla in the foreground. Creosote bush, too, is there, of course. The road out there is Route 91. I didn't take any more photos of the Joshua Tree area as we headed north and northeast on Route 91. The yellow star on this map marks where the dirt road I was on meets Highway 91. You can barely see the highway on this map, but it heads north and then northeast. The P marks where the pass is. But you can see that Joshua trees dropped out well before the pass. We stopped the car just on the downward north-facing slope after the pass, as I wanted to document where I saw the first grove of conifers along the road. There, tucked into a gully. Mostly ponderosa pine. Here's a broader aerial view of the area we covered. The yellow star marks where our dirt road journey ended at Highway 91. The P is the Highway 91 pass. Another P is for the pass on our backcountry road. And the rest of the yellow stars mark the path of our video documentary. The big turquoise star marks where I filmed the fourth and final part in this series. This is beyond the natural range of Joshua Tree. I could film Joshua Tree there only because this is a subdivision that took a fancy to planting Joshua trees for landscaping beginning some 25 or 30 years ago. Thanks to people in the community telling me the oral history of when those trees were planted, I learned a tremendous amount of important information about the natural growth habits of Joshua trees. Let's go have a look now.